Macedonia is too small for you. Macedonia is too small for you. It's too small for you.
More than 2 millennia ago, a young Macedonian king wrote a letter to his tutor, Aristotle. In it, he confessed that he would rather excel in the knowledge of the best things than in sheer power. That king was Alexander the Great. In his 2025 inaugural address, Donald Trump presented a parallel civilizational mandate, declaring, "I was saved by God to make America great again." Despite their disparate eras, these two men can be read as parallel hinges of Western civilization. This diagram maps the mechanics of how massive historical forces converge on a single figure. Both trajectories rely on the same variables: the pursuit of visible glory, the physical organization of cities, and the exercise of domination. To understand the nature of historical greatness, we have to look past the weapons of the era and analyze how these leaders execute the exact same blueprint. The philosopher Augustine of Hippo described this drive as the earthly city. He argued that worldly greatness is real and historically consequential, but it is ultimately appetite-driven and never final. We see this appetite in Alexander's refusal to accept a subordinate position. When General Parmenion suggested accepting a peace treaty from the Persians, saying he would take the deal if he were Alexander, Alexander replied, so would he, if he were Parmenion. Trump mirrored this logic through his doctrine of thinking big, framing politics as a civilizational battle for survival. He rejected the rhetoric of maintenance in favor of the rhetoric of magnitude. Earthly imperium requires a categorical rejection of the second rank. Absolute greatness demands the defining of terms rather than the acceptance of them. Raw ambition must eventually translate into prestige space. Political rule becomes believable only when it is inscribed into the physical world. Alexander moved beyond the battlefield to capture the ceremonial centers of the ancient world. He seized and repurposed the massive palatial structures of Persepolis and the ancient gates of Babylon, converting these spaces into monuments of his own reach. Trump translated this logic into the acquisition of elite real estate. The purchase and transformation of Mar-a-Lago created a semi-public theater of rule, where access and patronage are physically staged for a global audience. This spatial dominance extends vertically, where Alexander laid siege to inaccessible mountain strongholds to prove his command of the height. Trump institutionalized the ultimate high ground by establishing the United States Space Force. Whether in a conquered capital or a branded luxury estate, political legitimacy requires an architectural stage to project its authority. Once space is secured, power must project outward. The earthly city relies on the terrifying, visible capacity for coercion. Alexander utilized direct, heroic imperium. He physically shattered the city of Thebes to overawe the Greek world before launching his immediate conquest of the Persian Empire. Modern imperium operates through institutional command and standoff weaponry, achieving coercion without formal territorial annexation. This strategy appeared in the coalition campaigns against ISIS and the targeted strike against Qasem Soleimani. In both cases, the destruction was surgically applied from a distance to demonstrate presidential direction. Earthly power relies on making force legible. Regardless of the weapon, the goal is to make the consequences of defiance undeniably public. Pure force eventually reaches a limit. To stabilize, domination requires a moral disguise, a narrative that suggests the conqueror is also a provider. Alexander tempered his conquest with acts of magnanimity, such as his honorable treatment of Darius' captive family, and the Susa marriages aimed at fusing Macedonian and Persian elites. Trump employed a modern form of state-backed benefaction, highlighting opportunity zone incentives and signing legislation for permanent annual funding for historically Black colleges and universities. Internationally, the Abraham Accords functioned as a post-pressure strategy, using diplomatic normalization to reorder the region after a period of intense geopolitical friction. Success in the earthly city requires the public to see the conqueror morph into a unifying builder. The ultimate vulnerability of the earthly city is its inability to permanently stabilize itself. It can reorganize the world, but it cannot secure the future. Alexander collided with this limit at the Hydaspes River. After years of expansion, his army reached its breaking point and refused to cross, forcing a halt to his campaign. His deathbed confession revealed the instability of his legacy. Asked to whom he left his kingdom, he replied, "To the strongest." The empire fractured into a contest for force. Trump faced a modern structural limit in the electoral interruption of 2020. In a constitutional system, legitimacy is performative and must be periodically renewed through a mandate. This forced a shift toward continuous comeback dramas and rallies. To maintain authority across institutions and public opinion, the ruler must endlessly restage the narrative of his own necessity. Worldly legitimacy is inherently unstable. It relies entirely on a performance of greatness that can never truly be finished. Comparing an ancient king and a modern president exposes a recurrent symptom of human ambition. They both operate as masters of scale. Their historical impact is real and dazzling, resulting in actions that physically reorder the map. They prove that individual will can alter the course of nations. Yet this majesty remains entangled with appetite, fear, and the need for obedience. It is built on the shifting sands of the earthly city. The earthly city's glory must always be defended. Its peace is always mixed. No matter how vast the imperium, historical power never gets to write its own final judgment.
I declare today, for the world to hear, that the West will never, ever be broken. Our values will prevail. Our people will thrive. And our civilization will triumph. Triumph.